remember one of my very earliest prayers was futile to the absurd. I remember praying, God, give me back to my family, to my country. I don't know how long I can endure in these circumstances. And if I could have somehow known that I was going to be there for more than 7 years at the beginning, I don't know what I would have done. But gradually my prayers began to change, and I stopped saying, why me, God? And I started saying, show me, God. Show me what I'm supposed to do with this. What are you preparing me for here? How am I supposed to use this experience? Help me to use it to go home, whatever that might be, as a better, smarter, stronger person in every possible way that I can be. To go home as a better naval officer. To go home as a better American, a better citizen. To go home as a better husband and father and friend to all my friends. Please, God, help me to use this time productively so that it just doesn't turn out to be a void or a vacuum in my life. And after that realization and commitment, every single day began to take on a new meaning. Because now there was purpose. There were ways to be better and smarter and stronger. New insights again about myself, or about my comrades and the cell blocks around me all those years. And I'd pace back and forth in that tiny cell. I could walk 3 short steps and turn, 3 short steps and turn, called this the Hanoi Shuffle, walking several miles a day that way. As I do that, it would sometimes occur to me that whenever I returned home, there might be some opportunity to share this experience. I thought, of course, of my family, my friends. I never dreamed that there would be opportunities like the ones that I've had. Like this one this morning, for example, exceeding all of my dreams. But I thought to myself, okay, Coffee, what are you going to say? How can you possibly condense the essence of an experience like this, maybe 30, 35 minutes, and say anything that really makes any difference at all? I didn't know the answer to that question the whole time I was in prison. The answer never really occurred to me until I was finally repatriated in February of 1973. 7 years and 9 days later, I came home and looked around and saw that so many changes had occurred in our country during those specific 7 years. It was late 60s, early 70s, incredible turmoil, chaos, disillusionment, misunderstanding in our country. But I began to realize that the nature of my incarceration, the key to my survival, was worth sharing. The key to my survival, not surprisingly for you folks especially, was faith. When I say faith, we automatically tend to think of spiritual and religious faith, and that's certainly part of it. But in this context, I'm talking about 4 specific aspects of faith. First of all, faith in myself. Faith in myself to simply do what I had to do. The second aspect of faith was faith in one another, faith in those men in the cell blocks around me, my fellow Americans, my fellow POWs. Faith in my family, half the world away. The third aspect of faith was faith in my country, America, her basic institutions and our national purpose and cause at any given time. And the fourth aspect of faith, of course, faith in my God, certainly the foundation for it all. Let me just give you a little insight into each one of those aspects of faith this morning in the time that we have, because faith was certainly the key to my survival and can be for anyone's. Keeping faith in myself to simply do the things that I had to do. Faith in myself to obey the American Fighting Men's Code of Conduct, now the American Fighting Men's and Women's Code of Conduct, which outlines our behavior and requirements and exacts the things that we need to do in those kinds of circumstances as a prisoner of war. By minimizing my value to the enemy, they looked at us as resources to be exploited for military information, of course, early on, but for propaganda for the entire time. It was just another level of combat. We all realized that we were still in combat, but a different nature. Minimizing my value to the enemy to the best of my ability. Staying as good a shape as I possibly could, staying in good physical shape. Walking those several miles on my cell each day, doing push-ups and sit-ups on my little concrete slab each day, at least as many as my diet or injuries might allow at any given time. Staying as good a physical shape as possible, learning the value of good physical conditioning. Staying awake and alive intellectually. Early on, I thought my brain was going to atrophy from lack of use. Just the opposite took place. We devised all kinds of ways to stay busy and active and vital and thoughtful. Sometimes I'd be so busy, we'd do memorizing work. We'd memorize the names of over 600 men that were there with us, so that ultimately when we released, if they weren't all released, we could tell who the men were, who were the POWs. Passing information through the walls from cell to cell by tapping from cell to cell. Studying foreign languages, sciences, mathematics, petroleum engineering, art history, any knowledge that any man had to pass on and share with its fellow prisoners there. It became like a small university in downtown Hanoi. When I was released, I went to UC Berkeley for a couple of years getting a master's in political science. I figured if I could survive 7 years in a communist prison, I could hack 2 years at Berkeley, too. It was almost wrong. Using that time productively, recognizing that it was an opportunity. When is the last time, for example, you had a chance to experience solitary confinement? And the advantages of solitary confinement. Does that sound weird? But it's true. The last time you took a chance to go to your favorite little nook of the campus here and just simply sit down and think about your life and how you got to where you are and why you have the strengths and the weaknesses that you do, and best to maximize those strengths and where you're going in the future. Never underestimate the value of solitude in moderation. Use that time as well to learn, as I said, to learn everything that we could from one another by tapping information through the walls. One of my friends there was a real godsend. When he was when he was just a youngster, his mom forced him to learn a brand new poem every year to recite at the Thanksgiving family reunion. He hated it, but like most moms, she had the hammer, so he did. He passed some of that classic poems like the Ballad of East and West, Gunga Din, Rudyard Kipling's poem If, that you've probably heard, where a father's giving advice for the son. Especially the verse in the poem If that says, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve their term long after they are gone, and yet hold on when there's nothing left within you but the will that says to them, hold on, hold on. William Ernest Henley's poem Invictus, which says in part, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank the God I know to be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I've not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Sound familiar? That's the point. We are the masters of our fates. We are the captains of our souls, accountable and responsible. Faith in myself there to simply plant my feet and to not lose faith in what I was doing there, and to gain strength from it, plant my feet and say once and for all, that's right and that's wrong, and by God I know the difference.